Hi everyone, welcome to Dive In, a live and interactive conversation about anything and everything ocean for ocean and conservation enthusiasts of all ages. I'm Liz Taylor, ocean explorer, naturalist, and entrepreneur. And you?
I'm Sylvia Earle. I'm an explorer in residence, National Geographic, an ocean elder, and founder of Mission Blue.
So first we have a bit of housekeeping. There are many attendees from all over the world who may want to participate today. Later on in the program, if you'd like to ask a question, you can do so via text by writing it in the Q&A box, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. And you can also speak to us live by raising your hand. Just hit the raise your hand icon at the bottom of the Zoom screen. And please note, throughout the conversation, we will be adding some links for the attendees in the Zoom chat box. And I am going to try to share my screen now. Always a challenge.
And we start off, of course, the way we always start off, by reminding everybody that the world
Is blue.
Right. Don't ever forget it.
So, Sharktober.
Oh, there we are. Every month is Shark Month.
So Sharktober is the moniker for those fall months here along the Pacific coast when there's an increase in shark activity or interactions with humans. Here on the West Coast, it tends to be mostly white sharks that people encounter, while in Hawaii, it tends to be mostly tiger sharks. But today, we are going to dive
in with
whale
whale
sharks.
The biggest fish in the sea. They're as big as whales, which is why they're called
Whale sharks.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Not because they're mammals, but they are really fish with great big gills and lots of spots.
Well, it's these things that really make sharks stand apart from the other fish. And so instead of having like the normal scales that we think about a fish having, these guys have this very sandpapery skin.
Denticles.
Yeah, they're covered with denticles.
Like
versus,
little tiny teeth.
Yeah, and if you stroke a shark's skin one way, it feels very smooth, and if you go the other way, it's just like coarse sandpaper.
I think one of the most spectacular things is that they really are not bony fish. Have all that mass of muscle and everything else that makes a shark held up by a cartilaginous backbone and all the other features. Only the teeth are really made of a bony material that endures.
And that's another really interesting thing about sharks in particular, is that they have these rows of teeth that are replaced over the course of their life continually. Mm-hmm. We talked about that in our shark episode.
Right. But the mouth of a whale shark is very different. There's a whole group of related species that are plankton feeders.
Mm-hmm.
Without the big teeth that everybody else tends to think of when they think of sharks.
That's right. And they're just such beautiful fish. I mean, they get to be, 40 plus feet long, the size of a bus. They weigh many tons.
Yes, they do.
And they're global travelers. These guys, they were first seen in 1828. Yep.
I think that's right. Yeah, and Thor Heyerdahl, during his expedition across the Pacific, leaving from the coast of South America, winding up ultimately on. Let's see, he went to East.
Did you go by Easter Island?
Easter Island,
yeah.
But
Rapa
anyway,
Nui.
Yeah, Rapa Nui. Anyway, he filmed black and white back in the day. I think it was like in the 40s, and was the first to film a whale shark.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, amazing. And they didn't quite know what it was at the time.
I'll bet they just thought it was this enormous.
They just knew it was as big as
big
their
fish, right?
raft, their balsa wood raft.
That's right. But they do occur in most of the tropical areas, and then as you can see, they kind of they do extend up into some cooler waters as well.
But they don't like it really cold.
No, you're not going to find them in the polar regions at all. But people have been tracking them. We do know that they they transit many miles. There was one whale shark known as Anne was tagged by researchers at the Smithsonian Tropical Research Center in Panama. And then over the course of about 840 days, her travels took her from Panama over to Galapagos, and then she caught a westward current, and the last tag track was what came in right over by the Marianas Trench
Really?
area.
Wow,
So,
all the way across the Pacific.
like 13,000 miles or 20,000 kilometers.
She was going with the flow.
Yeah, and then either the tag dropped off or something happened to her. But that was a remarkable example of how far they really do travel.
They live a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
no one knows exactly how long, but pretty close to the span of a human lifetime. So.
Right, they believe they're 70 to 100 years in lifespan,
Mm-hmm.
and they hold a lot of carbon.
Yes, they do. Like whales.
Yeah,
Like us.
but they start off quite small, as we see. This is one that was
I've never seen a whale shark that tiny. I think the smallest one I've seen is about 5 meters. About, more than twice as long as you are tall.
yeah, but that's quite an adorable baby shark.
Yeah, he's so cute.
But as you can see in the corner of this image, the poor guy was hung up in a gill net. So they do face a lot of perils along the way as they're out there tooling along.
And they get to be kind of biggish, right?
Yeah, kind of
Well, that's your
biggish.
point.
So another research friend of yours, Bob Huter, from the Mote Marine Laboratory, he was studying some sharks of various kinds in Mexico, and he happened to be down at the island of Hobosh, and he was studying his, lemon sharks, nurse sharks, all the different species he was looking at, and one of the fishermen said, you should come back when the domino sharks are here.
The domino sharks.
Domino
All
sharks.
those spots.
And he's like, what is this domino shark? And the fisherman assured him it was that these are the domino sharks. They come every year since the time of his grandfather's grandfather.
Huh.
So it's this local lore about this accumulation of whale sharks that all the locals knew about it, but the scientists had no idea that they were coming there. And you went there for your birthday.
I did. Mexico declared my birthday as Whale Shark Day. It was really quite. We had a little conference there. This was several years ago. Whale shark watching has become a far more important industry, if you will, quotes industry, economic driver for the people of Hobosh and that whole region than the taking of sharks for their fins or however they used the sharks in the past. It's really a nice conversion once people realize that some of us will pay big bucks just for the privilege of going out to see these beauties.
Yeah,
the way whale watching has become a phenomenal plus side of our relationship with these animals. With big mouth, big mouth.
Big plankton mouth.
I mean, I guess you could probably fit in there, Liz. I mean, you probably could.
Oh, probably.
But I don't think they would swallow you. I think they'd say, you don't taste like plankton. Puh.
Yeah, spit you out.
And no big teeth to do you harm anyway. They might gum you a bit.
They might. In our last episode, we had a special episode talking about the oil spill in Mauritius.
Yeah.
It's another area where the whale sharks are found. And we talked about the other spills that we've had the displeasure of dealing with over the years. But during the Deepwater Horizon response, there was a lot of concern about what was happening with the whale sharks that congregate in that area.
Right.
And I'm going to...
Well, before you do, just let me set the stage a bit. We're going to show you a little film clip, but this is when we... Curiously, we had a Mission Blue expedition to the Galapagos. This is 2010. It was just a few days after that, in April, that the big Gulf spill took place.
Right around Earth Day.
Right around Earth Day, exactly. Yeah, so
it's crazy.
We decided, Bob Nixon, who was putting together a Mission Blue film, decided that we just had to go out and follow up on a lead that we had about a congregation of whale sharks right out in the area where the vicinity of where the spill was supposed to
Yeah.
flow, right?
And you can see by the size of these guys, the size of their mouth and their habit of being so close to the surface like this, that it really puts them at risk of just sucking oil
Yeah,
uh,
along with the plankton.
along with the plankton.
Yeah,
And if it's dispersed oil, then they have no opportunity to evade it at all. And it's completely saturates the water column. So they have no way to get away from it.
yeah, it's in their biology to be surface feeders. I think they probably feed in the deep area too, but they come to the surface because that's where the plankton tends to congregate. And in particular, where we went in the Gulf of Mexico, it was pretty far north of Holbox, where we met with Bob Huter years before, but probably the same whale sharks.
Yeah.
Because they travel so
They
widely.
do. They really,
Yeah,
a long ways. So let's see if we can get this little video to play.
better. There
Better.
we go. We have.
Yeah, there it is.
The reason we're here for this glimpse of what's happening in the Gulf is to try to find and tag some of the really big guys, the whale sharks.
These animals are in this region to feed, and in the area the oil spill is an important feeding area for them. It's essential habitat, and right now we don't know how they're responding to this oil.
It's an ocean full of whale sharks. I can't even count the number of fins. As soon as I think I have a number, 6 more pop up.
We need to start tagging these guys and looking at their movements in relation to the oil to determine if indeed they are avoiding it and staying away, or if they are actually going into it and succumbing to the oil.
What's up, man? Get it, man. How does that work? The Louisiana punch?
Double duke. I called him Samson because he was the biggest one. He was the Mac Daddy. He was the big boy of the bunch.
2 of those tags are spot tags. So they're surface satellite tags. So the first thing we want to do is get online. Let's see how they're reporting, how often they're reporting, all that. So hopefully we'll have hits from the day. As long as the satellite has to be overhead, and it comes overhead 3 to 6 times a day. As long as those 2 things line up, it will send a signal.
Ding, ding.
And it'll say, here I am.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens if they encounter the oil, where they go with it, you know?
The comment that some have said about the whale sharks in the Gulf of Mexico, that they're on death row, could be true. It could be that because of their feeding habits, they skim right at the surface where the oil accumulates. They're in harm's way.
They really are. But today we're going to be joined by Shannon Rake.
Shannon the shark.
Shannon the shark. Shannon, if you can join us by turning on your video and microphone.
Oh, there she
There
is.
she is.
Oh,
Hi, everybody. Thanks
So
for having me.
Yeah, Shannon's the Mission Blue Hope Spot coordinator. And as you say, she sometimes pops up as Shannon the shark.
yes, she does. Interviews kids and grown-ups as well. Great to have you here.
And been to a lot of the Hope Spot launches. And maybe you can explain to us this slide that we're looking at here that shows the, some whale shark movement, eh?
Yeah, so super exciting. Very recently, actually in September, some of our Hope Spot champions and partners documented a female whale shark named Coco, and she ended up migrating from Galapagos Island all the way to Cocos Island through the Cocos Galapagos swimway, and all 3 of these areas are Mission Blue Hope Spots. So that was super exciting. It was a first. It's great to have the science, and she traveled over 1,100 kilometers. So
Wow.
that's what we're seeing here, and that was in a little over 3 weeks. So pretty impressive.
That's one of the areas that we talked about in our the special we did on Galapagos.
Yes,
And
the swimway.
the swimway, and how there's this real opportunity right now for some of the presidents of these nations to come together and bring enduring protection for that swimway area.
This is a moment in time when, right now, the high seas are kind of up for grabs, but deliberations are underway to really provide some recognition, some official protection for animals that they don't know where the boundaries are. They have the whole ocean open to them. It's only we who've come along in recent times to kind of carve up the land and now carving up the ocean as well.
Yeah.
So respecting them and protecting them and understanding what they require in order to survive is really critical. But it's coupled with knowing. You can't care if we don't know. And bravo to the champions who are out there actually doing the work to find out not just who these creatures are, but where they go.
Right.
And then what we have to do in order to ensure their ongoing protection, survival.
You know, through being able to provide some true evidence like this, it really does help to build the case.
Eric Hoffmeyer, who's the scientist that I worked with in the Gulf of Mexico, is one of the champions who uses the spots on the whale sharks as well as putting satellite tags. I mean, we know so much now because we have both technology, but we also have reached the point of really understanding that they are important to the health of the planet, and the health of the planet is important to us. It all ties together.
Yeah.
Look
And-
at that fin.
And
Look at
isn't
that
it
tail.
beautiful?
Huh.
It's one of the things that's just such a hallmark of these big fish, but it's also one of the things that really puts them at greatest risk, because the shark finning trade is really relentless, and if you can get the fins off of a whale shark,
Jackpot.
it's a jackpot, right? And it's just it's horrifying to think about. I mean, you've seen a shark fin, a whale shark, and it's not just in Asia. You've seen them in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
years ago.
Yep.
You know, right there.
Advertising shark fin soup.
Yeah. Okay, trigger alert. The next slide's a bit gruesome. Sorry. But this is how a lot of them end up. Look at Shannon expression.
Yeah.
But it's
not
grim.
just the fins.
It's not just, yeah. I mean, this beautiful animal that could bring to this local economy, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of its life, or even millions of dollars over the course of its life, was, you know, hauled out, carted up, and sold for, you know,
mostly bait.
Yeah, for bait for a couple $1,000s, and its fins taken.
And then it's gone.
And it's gone.
And Tommy Romingasel, president of Palau, commissioned a study about the value of sharks. And even for the relatively small sharks compared to a whale shark, they were talking $1 million at least per shark.
Per shark, right.
Because of the value that to his economy, to their economy. Oh, look, this shark has a tag on its dorsal fin. That's one of the satellite tags.
Look at that. You just...
Ah.
So, it's true. Now that we're away from the gruesome picture, that's good. We're back to this nice picture of the whale shark. It's got some remora fish in its...
They're just going for the ride.
Going for the ride in its mouth. And it does have that satellite tag on it. And it's this is similar, I think, to the one that the whale shark Hope had on her fin as well. This is the one that we talked about during the Galapagos episode as well, that has gone missing once she encountered the fishing fleet at the edge of Galapagos.
Oh.
And I checked back with Max Bello, who was our guest on that episode, and he confirmed that Hope is still missing in action, unfortunately.
Let's hope she's on her way to a happy place in the ocean.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate.
Those tags make them look like they're cyborgs. I hope they don't mind.
But most of them drop off after a time.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And come back to the surface so they can be recovered. Because they're expensive tags.
And I wouldn't want to impose a tag on I wouldn't want to have to carry an alien's tag on me for the rest of my life. A little while, okay, I'll accommodate your scientific experiment, but anyway. Big mouth. Dive in, Shannon.
So what kind of response or feedback have either of you had to sort of the the questions around the whale tourism or the whale shark tourism?
Well, I'm happy to talk briefly about it. I'm actually leaving Sunday to go to an amazing place called Bahia de Los Angeles. It's in the Gulf of California Hope spot. You have to drive to get there. It's a bit remote, but it's well worth it. It's an incredible place, and I'll be swimming with whale sharks every day. Just paddle out on my paddleboard and jump in and swim with them. So that's where I've kind of fallen in love with whale sharks. They're one of my favorite sea creatures, and anybody can go there. You can drive there. It's about a 7-hour drive past the California-Mexico border. and they have local tourists that or tourism outfits that will take you out and can take you out on a boat and show you the whale sharks. They can take you, show you the sea lion colonies. There's finback whales, killer whales, orcas. Sorry, I just said that. I'm excited. I'm excited because sorry, somebody posted a picture a couple days ago of some killer whales, and so I'm keeping my flippers crossed that I'll be able to see them when I get down there. So it's on my mind for sure.
That's really good.
But they're just incredible, and they're there because the plankton and fish eggs and everything is super rich. And there's times where I've jumped in, and when I get out, my rash guard and everything smells like I've been swimming in plankton soup. So
Yum,
Lovely.
yum, yum.
So,
So
there's some areas where there's been a bit of controversy because the local people they're realizing how uh, much can be made off and stimulate their economy by having these whale shark encounters, and they're actually feeding the whale sharks to kind of keep them there all the time instead of just trying to make it a seasonal occurrence.
yeah, why would they bother to move if the groceries are there all the time?
But there's quite a bit of controversy about that practice because some people are a bit curious about what impact is that really going to have on them in the long run.
Right. Yeah. It's not quite like natural plankton to get
It's a krill milkshake maybe.
something like that.
Something like that, but
Not
it's
the same.
but it's still a concern.
But notice the pattern of spots. Every whale shark has its own suit of clothing. Every one is different from every other one. And Brad Norman, who's a scientist based in Australia, really began working with NASA engineers who mapped stars using a computer program and applied it then to whale sharks so that people can take a photograph of whale sharks, send it off to Whale Shark Central, and we'll get that link and make that available. I'm not sure what that is, but we should make that known because of, like you, Shannon, you're off to see the whale sharks, and images that you could take of the place just around the dorsal fin can be matched with this whale shark catalog, and you can figure out, has that shark been seen anywhere before? If so, where? Or is this a novel? Is this the first time that the shark has been documented? But it's great. That's one of the ways that people are tracking the habits of these animals. The way we can get to know individual whales by their natural tail prints.
Right.
You don't always need a satellite tag, although they can offer some additional information beyond just point-to-point observations. But it's all good information.
And it's the kind of thing that, as you say, anybody can do. And they've seen this big uptick, really a surge in the number of people going out to swim with the whale sharks. There's a few hundred people back in 2011, and now one space in the Philippines, one place in the Philippines had more than 12,000 people show up to swim with the whale sharks. So it's that sort of thing where just doing something as simple as taking some underwater images can be a real help to scientists who are trying to get a better handle on where these sharks go, how long they live, where do they go to breed, when do their pups become active and released,
How fast do they grow?
There's so much that's really still unknown about these guys, and it's really compelling evidence of why we need that high seas protection.
Yeah, for sure. They're like ambassadors, big spotted ambassadors. What about shark water, Shannon? You there?
this was an image taken by our friends in the shark water, and obviously a little over undershot. So all of our friends and champions and partners in the Eastern Pacific Seascape, and all of our hope spots within the Eastern Pacific Seascape, are studying and researching whale sharks. So we're hoping to learn more because, as you guys just said, there's so much that's unknown about them, and they seem to be somewhat elusive, although They're super gentle, super docile in my experience. And while they look like they're swimming very, very slowly,
Just
their tail
Right.
from tip to tip is probably 6, 7 feet for the larger ones.
Mhm.
And when you jump in and you're swimming with them, unless they're in a real nice pocket of food that they really like, you're kicking your fins as hard as you can, and it looks like they're going slow, but
No,
they're not going as slow as you think. So they're so gentle, and I've even had ones come and turn and like come at me, and I'm trying to, keep my distance and give it its respect, but it wants whatever food I happen to be in the middle of, and they're just super gentle and docile, and they're just majestic,
Yep.
and so I hope everybody, at some point in their life that's on this webinar today and that will see this gets a chance to experience them, in real life, because once you experience something like that and you get close to them and you can feel their energy, that's when you want to go out and do what you can do to help protect them.
Well, it's as you always say, with knowing comes caring,
that's
right?
right. And with caring, there is hope
Yeah.
that we'll really find ways to embrace these creatures with care. So, before you switch, just look at that blunt nose. It's like the front end of a sperm whale. Engineers have noticed this and realized that this blunt front end can offer some hydrodynamic efficiencies. Usually you see a very pointy end, like the pointy end of a tuna,
Right. It's like, eat.
yeah, as being efficient. But learning from nature, learning from animals that have been, after all, involved, yeah. Look
Here's
at
a little
this.
model from our friend Sharon Kwok.
Oh, yeah, right. She's a great
But here,
shark
but here you can see
aficionado.
that
Blunt front.
blunt front.
that has certain advantages, but in keeping with the whole animal, you can learn things about movement in the ocean and how water flows around um, with, again, the whole structure. But it's fascinating. Different kinds of animals have different solutions to the movement through the water. So,
And that mouth, when it's open, you know,
oh,
I'm 5'2", and it definitely I could fit inside of it. So when you see it open, swimming toward you, it's like, ah. But we're not on their menu. They're super gentle, and it's just incredible the amount of water that they suck in and filter all the plankton and fish eggs and all the other good stuff that they like to eat.
Yeah. But it's also the thing that puts them at greatest risk,
that's right.
from ocean plastic.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's a double-edged sword for these guys, because it's things that, choices we make every day, whether we, choose to a disposable item or something we can keep reusing. But when that plastic ends up in the ocean,
Yeah,
these guys can really suffer for it.
look at that photograph. It just kind of, I don't know what those white dots are. Maybe they're birds.
Yeah, hopefully it's not
Not
styrofoam or
something that
something.
we put there.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Anyway, never know. Oh,
But here's this. Yeah, look at this, just right up next to this beautiful animal.
it's
Thanks
one
to
of,
our friend Amos for sharing some slides today too.
yeah, it's one of his images. Look at all those spots, and everyone like a fingerprint.
Hmm.
It's
So this is familiar to you, Shannon.
Yeah, so this is Bahia de Los Angeles. This is one of the ones I took, and you can see, some of the other ones are taken a little bit submerged or in a little bit clearer water, but this water, the reason it's so green is because it's completely rich in plankton, and that's why they're there. They're having a buffet, you could say. So it's you don't necessarily get the best photographs, but it shows you why they're there and why this is such an incredible place and such an important place to protect.
Right. And so, yeah, this is kind of the typical view that you might have if you were out on your boat and, happened along. You might not really see the fish right away, because it does kind of give them some camouflage there along the surface that way.
and you shared this with a friend, right?
I did. That's my doggy AJ. That was the first time she met a whale shark, and
Probably
she
vice
was looking
versa.
at it like, "What is that thing? I'm not sure what that thing is, but I think we can be friends." And if you can kind of see it's a little choppy, but you can see it's in its vertical feeding position, and
Hmm.
so sometimes they don't always swim along flat along the top. Sometimes if they find a really good spot, they'll just hang out in kind of this vertical position, and they'll open their mouth and they'll just suck the water in and feed that way. So that's what that one was doing at that moment that AJ got to meet it. That might be the first ever picture of a dog and a whale shark. I don't know.
It might be. But you know, one of the really great things is to see how the whale shark has become fashionable, right?
Show
So,
us. You have a
aren't you have some whale shark fashion on there?
I do.
Yeah, look
yeah.
at
Oh.
that. But you know, to just see the variety of apparel that's coming along. It's no longer fashionable to wear products that are made from
Of
a whale
shark.
shark or
Yeah.
from whale shark leather,
No.
as it's called. It's hideous.
Shark
But
skin.
you know,
No.
these are shark skins, right?
Right.
For snorkeling or diving. We see these
No
all
shark.
these
No shark died.
no shark died for these, but just this wide array of just people
looks-
are dressing up as whale sharks. They're just celebrating whale shark shoes. It's just mayhem, you know.
I think I needed to get that onesie, and maybe that would help me camouflage, and I can just become a whale shark. I'm already Shannon the shark sometimes, so
Yeah, so you could just be
We'll
all
work on that.
shimmery. Yeah, we can. But it's great to see how many different things are coming up now that are really celebrating the whale shark, and I just hope that it can continue to just to where it's not just people are really kind of embracing it as an animal worthy of protection. And when a whale shark is protected and its swimways and its feeding and breeding habitats are protected, so many other animals are protected as well.
That's right.
It's
To protect a whale shark, you have to protect the ocean. Good idea.
it's very true.
absolutely. And they're they do whale shark research down in Bahia de Los Angeles in
Hmm.
the Gulf of California hope spot, and they do tag some whale sharks. They're using I think they're about a 3 to 6 month tag, and then they'll release and surface. But yeah, I was actually paddleboarding, and one of the research boats came up and said, "Hey, is that one tagged already?" And I said, "Yep, you already got it." And then they moved on because they can be hard. You can just see the dorsal fin just comes just out of the water when they're swimming and feeding. So sometimes you gotta really look to find them
Yeah.
unless you have like an aerial drone, but from the boat. So it can be challenging to find them, but
Yeah, that's cool though. And it's really heartening to see that there's a number of groups that are working on the tagging and tracking of these animals. So Conservation International has a big program going on with them. And there's also Wild Book for whale sharks, which is a nice one because it's really encouraging citizen scientists and just random photographers, divers, snorkelers, everybody to take pictures of those sharks,
Right. And
upload it to their
submit
site,
them.
they
Right.
send it to their site, and then they're using it to try to track where the sharks are on a global basis, so we can get some handle on it. Because right now, there's about 7 to 8 thousand individuals that have been kind of identified and are
Fingerprinted.
known as individuals, and there's maybe tens of thousands left. But we really have no idea how many are left, and what their distribution truly is. So anytime that we can get out there and get more information back to the scientists that are studying them, the better.
Like every other shark, they should be fully protected. It's not just the fins, it's the whole shark, these animals, like whales. I mean, live sharks are so much more important than any use we could make of them. They're really critical to the health of the ocean and therefore to the health of humans.
And
So thank you, whale shark, for
yeah,
what you do for me.
well, this recent news article that came out just this past week about the use of again squalene from the shark's livers in COVID-19 vaccine production, And it's just like, what are we doing?
Right.
It's just something that can be synthesized
That's it.
in the lab.
The squalene is not, you don't have to kill sharks to get this active ingredient that is helpful. There's no excuse, really. We can treat nature, treat the sharks, treat all the
Wildlife.
rainforest
Yeah.
as a library, But what we're doing is closing the book when we take them and use them as the source. We just get the answer, the recipe. Oh, so this works. Now we'll go and create it in the volumes that we might find useful to us, but we're not going to go out and just slaughter sharks. We shouldn't be doing it, although some people are actually proposing to do that.
Yeah,
with
500,000 is what they estimate.
Just
And
no, just say no.
You know, it just
No.
absolutely no.
It's another way to kill us by killing them.
Yeah, I mean, it's just unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
So and with the whale sharks, it's already over the last 50 years we believe that their populations have gone down by about 60%, just based on fishing records.
And what the incidental killing with the
Bycatch, plastics,
Yeah,
and things that
the
wash
bycatch,
ashore.
right.
Yeah,
entanglement and strikes
yeah, ships
like whales.
again. They're big and slow moving. So we don't want it to be a sunset for whale sharks.
No.
It's another one of your pictures, Shannon.
Yeah, beautiful
Beautiful.
sunset.
Beautiful picture.
Let's say it's a sunrise.
Yeah, let's say
It could be actually a sunrise too. I do get up early in the morning to capture that. So yeah, and you guys are talking about whale sharks and the females. There was one recorded incident of a female that they caught that had 300 pups within her. So obviously, all those don't make it to adulthood. Should they be given the opportunity to be born? But taking one female, that's a significant loss over the course of her lifetime. So, with so few numbers that we know of, so much unknown about them still, we really need to do everything we can. And there's nothing not to love about these amazing creatures, and they deserve, our respect, and they deserve our protection, and they play a critical part of the ecosystem. So, which we benefit from. So hopefully, everybody can do their part and do whatever they can, wherever they are, whatever that may be, and push for protection and conservation.
And the places where they live.
Yeah.
The hope spots, of course.
Yeah. We've got to protect the hope spots, and we've got to protect these swimways.
The swimway is in between.
And in between,
right.
so these animals have an opportunity to prosper.
So
But-
before we go to the question,
Yes.
there's one thing I want to do, because there's another creature that deserves our respect, admiration, and protection. Nobody should eat an octopus. Today is World Octopus
It is World
Day.
Octopus Day.
So along with celebrating whale sharks, we're celebrating our 8-armed creatures. So
The incredible suckers.
yeah. The ones, only creatures perhaps on the planet who don't mind if you say sucker.
That's right.
They
All
say
right.
thank you very much.
All right, we'll put this ink creature away, and we are going to get ready for questions.
Yeah.
So again, I'd like to remind people that you can raise your hand and talk to us directly. And Arnold, who's our co-producer, will call on you if he sees some raised hands. He'll just jump in and say we got some raised hands. But in the meantime, we have a question from Australia saying, what can Australia do in places like Queensland and New South Wales to get rid of the shark nets that are killing off other marine life as they get entangled in the nets and hooks while maintaining the safety of people but also saving innocent marine life?
Oh, use your voice and don't be silent, because if nobody objects, people, I think nobody cares. And it is sad that we have begun to wage war on sharks with the expectation that their out to get us. Anybody who spent much time with sharks know that's just not the case, and that we still cherish our illusions, our stories. But Shannon, what do you think? How do we change the way people think? And very specifically, these shark nets are really terrible idea.
Yeah, it's interesting because here in the States, we have sharks. If I go and, swim, well, I don't really swim because our water's cold here in Northern California, but I have surfed a few times and, we don't have nets protecting us like Australia does. And it's a risk you take. It's a very minimal risk, compared to getting in your car and driving to the supermarket, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really a shame, and we have quite a few hope spots. I think 7 or 8 now in Australia, and some of whom are working on this issue and trying to get these nets removed and trying to educate people more about sharks and why they're valuable to the environment and why they should be treated with respect. And occasionally, yes, accidents do happen. We're in their ocean, their home, their habitat, their territory. So that is a risk that you can take. But again, it's such a minimal risk in comparison to anything else that we are working on that and trying to get some policies changed. But it starts with changing the hearts and minds of all the individual citizens and them stepping up and saying, hey, this is what we demand as citizens to their elected officials, and this is what we want. This is how we want you to represent us.
Yeah.
Instead of demonizing sharks, make people understand how important they are and that they really warrant our full protection as
Yeah.
well as admiration.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me jump in for a second. This is Arnold. I see that we have a couple of hands raised. Jolion, if you unmute yourself.
Yeah,
Yourself, excuse me.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good.
I had a quick question for Shannon. Is there what kind of travel restrictions are there to Mexico? Because the last time I heard we couldn't cross the border, but I would love to go down to Bahia and start swimming with the sharks this season. Would be absolutely amazing.
So I know there was a lot of talk about Mexico closing off the border to non-essential travel. However, I know people can fly to various destinations in Mexico still currently, and thus far, all of the people I know that live down there part-time, expats and people that go for tourism have not had a problem crossing the border. So hopefully it'll remain open. And the towns, there's so many small towns in Baja, and they survive off of tourism and tourism dollars. And so, in order for them to do the conservation work that they're doing, they need those tourism dollars. And Bahia de Los Angeles it's such a small place. There's a couple, I would call them motels, not hotels probably, and a few restaurants. It's very rural, but the townspeople are so sweet, so kind, and they're welcoming, and it's just a fantastic place to visit. So I would say, you definitely have to, you drive, you have to get Mexican car insurance, you have to get your visa, but so far it's remained open, and we'll see how things progress as COVID-19, progresses and changes, but so far it's open.
And
Nice.
you wear a mask whether you're underwater or above.
That's right.
Thank you so much. I think we'll go to Adriana. We have a whole bunch of people here, which is exciting. Adriana,
Cool.
I'm unmuting you. If you'd like to speak, go ahead.
Hi guys, it's such a pleasure to be able to speak to you. I am actually a volunteer with the Moat Marine Lab.
Oh,
I just volunteer last month. The 13th was my very first day, and I'm in the Fish and Invertebrates building. And Sylvia, we actually have a mutual friend in Jim Abernathy.
of course. Mr. Tiger Shark friend.
Yes. He's a great friend and mentor to me. And my question to you primarily is, when you're educating people about sharks and you face the kind of Shark Week stigma of their violence and their aggression and that sort of thing. What is the avenue you take to dissuade people from having that train of thought?
Evidence. Just look at the evidence. And more evidence all the time about how sharks are not really out to get us. We're out to get them. We need to pull back. Nobody has to tell the sharks, don't eat humans, but we do have to tell humans, don't eat sharks. It's the evidence is so clear. When I started diving many years ago, I faced just this attitude that was widespread that the only good shark is a dead shark. But I learned by doing and watching along with the rest of the world. We've learned over recent decades not but just to look at sharks differently, and everything you can do, everything Moat is doing to look at sharks with new eyes. Jeannie Clark, the shark lady, of course, my mentor in part, was a champion, and just be a voice for them. So they can't come to the meetings and vote about shark nets and shark rules, regulations. So we have to be their voice.
And recognize that they are, that they're fish after all. We'll hear people say, "Oh, it's a shark attack," and I'll say, "It's a fish bite accident." It's they're not trying to get us, but sometimes they make mistakes, and you could just as easily be.
Humans never make mistakes.
Oh no, but you could easily be bitten by a dog, and it's not like a dog attack, but it was an accident.
Far more dog attacks than shark attacks.
Oh yeah,
every year, every day.
Yeah. Every day.
Absolutely, Adriana. Thank you so much. I think we're going to Cassia. If you are there and you unmute yourself, you're welcome to ask a question.
Oh.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm loving learning about whale sharks, and I wanted to ask the group, are they a deep diving shark? Because I was with a group of advanced divers actually at 100 feet, and then we saw the whale shark go way below us. We actually had to monitor our depth to make sure that we didn't go deeper trying to watch it.
Actually, because of those satellite tags that not only track at the surface, but they keep recording data as the sharks go down, and then they upload information when they come back to the surface. There's evidence that they go to at least 1,000 feet. 300 meters.
Wow.
And it's pretty cold down there. One of the questions that came in why don't whale sharks go into really cold water? Because if you go deep, even in the tropics, you get into cold water.
Yeah.
But they don't stay there. They can stay there for a little while. Maybe who knows why? Maybe it just feels good to be air conditioned or water, the cool water to cool off, or who knows why? Maybe there are some deep water plankton sources.
Or jellies, perhaps.
The deep scattering layer can go down to as much as 300 meters and even 1,000 meters. So, but it's still a mystery about why they tend to stay within the tropical band or warm temperate zone and not go to polar regions. But they do go deep.
Yeah,
yep.
We are
and it's cold down there.
And with the ocean temperature changing, there is some anticipation that we may see some range extensions.
That's right.
As they start to move into traditionally colder waters.
It may have something to do with the baby sharks not being able to tolerate cold water.
Yeah, so maybe some of the big females kind of hang in the warmer temperatures.
More mysteries.
More mysteries.
Yeah. That was great. Fellini, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. If you're here, you're welcome to ask a question. You just unmute yourself at the bottom of your screen. I'll try one more then, and if you come back. And how about Talia, if you're here?
Hi.
Hello.
Oh my God, I can't believe I'm actually talking to you, both of you. I'm really, really honored. Thank you. Okay. These webinars have been great. And my question was that in July, whale sharks were discovered with denticles over their eyes. So they have like armored eyes. And I was just wondering what your opinion, do you think this is an adaptation that's moving evolutionary forward, or do you think it's more vestigial like their tiny teeth?
Or maybe it's just something that is a one-off. Was it found on more than one whale shark?
I don't know that answer. I think they were able to find it on, and it was in, believe it was around by Mexico.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that one.
No, I haven't heard about that, but it would seem, I'm not sure how important vision is to whale sharks. Like other sharks, they are equipped with chemoreception and are able, probably like other sharks, to have a hypersensitivity to electrical field.
Mm-hmm.
But to have denticles over their eyes would seem to be putting them at a disadvantage.
Yeah, it seemed to me too. It's interesting, though.
Well, something, again, more we don't know.
More whale shark mystery.
Absolutely. So well, I think we'll just take one more and then we'll give it back to the host. Okay. Geraldine, if you can unmute yourself, you're free to speak.
Hi.
Oh, hey.
This is just a quick question. What will happen if whale sharks went extinct?
The world would be a
far sadder place.
Yeah.
That would be terrible.
Well, species do come and go, but every time a species is lost, it means that others somehow fill that space or not. Not just every species, but every individual. Like you are one of a kind.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other individual, no other human who's ever existed just like you. And so when I see the numbers of these wonderful animals dwindling, I do ask the question you've just posed. What happens if they all go away?
Yeah.
Our job, I think, certainly I'm committed to making sure that doesn't happen, at least on my watch. We need to do everything we can to keep as many pieces of the puzzle, that this amazing planet that works in our favor. I've witnessed the loss of a little animal in the Gulf of Mexico where those whale sharks currently still abound, an animal called a monk seal. They were there when I was a child, but now they're all gone. Seals, beautiful little seals in the Gulf of Mexico and in the Caribbean. But the last one was lost in the 1950s, and
mm-hmm.
we don't know how to, we can't put them back. That's the thing. And every piece is linked to the world around it. So when you lose a species, it's not just that species that is gone, it's all the connections that they made in their existence. The plankton, whales and whale sharks and every creature puts nutrients back into the system. And if we lost whale sharks, that connection to the phytoplankton through the fertilizer basically that the whale sharks put into the ocean that drives the phytoplankton, that causes the zooplankton to grow, that makes the little fish to grow.
It gives us oxygen.
It gives us oxygen in the process,
mm-hmm.
right? When the phytoplankton flourishes, a lot of good things happen. And when you take away a part of that system, it's just, I think the good news is that nature is resilient.
It's true.
And the reason that biodiversity, having many different kinds of species, is so important is that if you do lose something, others can, at least for a while, begin to fill the space. But it's when you start losing so many so fast that we really get into trouble. That's what's happening now. We're losing a lot of individual species, pieces of the machinery that together make the ocean and make the planet, make our home function in our favor. So it's worth it to us, not just because these are beautiful animals, because we need them. They help hold the ocean and the world steady.
Yeah.
So really appreciate your caring about them, and hope you can help keep them safe.
Yeah.
They keep us safe.
They keep us safe is right. And there are things that we can do every day. The choices that we make, even just picking one thing and doing it consistently can make a big difference. Whether it's, really committing to not having these disposable plastics in our lives, or what you put on your lawn, and the real cost of the foods that you're eating and consuming. Where do they come from? What is the cost to the environment in producing them? So there's many, many things. Ocean Elders have the One Thing campaign. You can see, a number of really positive things you can do to kind of help assure that there will be whale sharks in the future, and other animals too.
Octopus,
yeah. Don't eat those. So I guess we'll go to a few more questions. We're almost at the top of the hour, but I think we've got time for a few more. Let's see here. So who's responsible, this is Nicole asking, who's responsible for balancing out the amount of whale watchers and whale shark watchers? Would less boats in the ocean mean less disturbance of the ecosystem? But if no one's watching them and no one's documenting them, which of course is key, that comes back to with knowing comes caring, right? So,
Shannon, what do you think? How do we find out?
Yeah, so obviously in Bahia de Los Angeles, it's so rural and remote that that's not an issue at all. Sometimes you could be the only one in the bay, and there's fishing boats that come and go, but they usually go other places. But I have swam with whale sharks off the coast of Cancun, and that was a much different experience. We went out with a charter boat, and there happened to be probably 20 plus boats there trying to see, a group of whale sharks. I will say that Mexico does have national park rangers. They'll have a boat out there, and tour operators can be fined if the tourists do not abide by certain protocols. You can't touch them. You can't dive down. There's certain things that they do to protect the animals. And somebody else had a question, about ecotourism practices, and then also, if the whale sharks get annoyed, and they can dive down and be gone in 2 seconds. So it was interesting. It was a more chaotic encounter than I would have preferred. I like being the only one and just me and the whale shark. That's just me. But they certainly, are doing things to protect them, and they can dive and be gone if they're annoyed. But to be honest, they didn't seem to care that there was all these boats around them. They were just really enjoying the food. So
that's great. So Robin is asking, how do we transition a hope spot into an MPA?
Ooh.
There you go.
That's a challenging and tricky one. There's so many factors, but all of our hope spots start off with the basic premise that individuals and communities have power, and that by sharing their voices and building that community support, they are able to advance protection. And so, some marine protected areas that we've been working on take a decade or so to create, and then some with favorable government and a lot of community support can be done more quickly. So there's not one path. Creating MPAs takes a group effort. It takes
a team sport.
Yeah.
It's a team sport. It takes lawyers, it takes policymakers, it takes individual citizens, it takes NGOs, showing, doing the science and the research and showing the proof. And it takes politicians to be on board and listen to their constituents. So there's a variety of actions and activities that our Hope Spot champions and partners take in our Hope Spots. And it's not a linear journey. So it really depends. And then obviously governments change and administrations change, and something that has great protection today could not have protection in a few years because of a new administration. And that's why our hope spots,
Yeah, unfortunately.
we're
Yeah.
exactly. And unfortunately, you know, some of the other governments around the world right now are not pro conservation, but nonetheless, our champions and our partners are doing the work. And that's the reason why these hope spots are there, is to push through those difficult times. And if protection gets reduced or minimized, we push through and we continue on. There's no stopping, you know, there's no other alternative. The alternative is, you know, strap on the boots, put on the fins, and dive in.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, it does take that kind of persistence and that grassroots effort that, you know, kind of no matter what's going on, sort of, you know, in the higher government climate, that so long as local communities come together, particularly around these hope spots, and keep that, you know, make that pledge that they're gonna do what they can to protect these areas and to make sure that that they're not being contaminated, and that they have swimmable water, and that the water coming in to the area is clean, and, you know, so forth, that you're protecting everything upstream, the marshlands, the wetlands, rivers, all those things upstream that help form the character of the hope spot.
It relates a bit to the question about how do you save sharks. If people understand why they matter, there are always the aesthetic reasons, always the, you know, it's the right thing to do, the philosophical reasons, but what brings most people on board is that they see why it matters personally to them. And when people understand not just the economic value, but also the health value, the security value, that whether it's sharks or octopus or whole ecosystems, that we're a part of nature. We can't live on a place that is devoid of nature. I mean, we could set up housekeeping on Mars for a while for a few people, maybe, but human civilization is grounded in nature. And we've used nature, the natural systems, cut the trees for the wood. We breathe the air. Air didn't just happen. It comes from a living planet. And I think I tend to be increasingly optimistic, despite good reasons for despair. But why I keep looking at the evidence that we are moving in the right direction. Going back not so many years ago, the ocean had no proactive protection at all. Sharks had no protection at all. And from where we were when I was a child to where we are today, it's not fast enough to really cope with a decline that we're seeing. But it's happening faster and faster. You know, it's an increased level that I see that we have the potential for reaching that tipping point that tips in the right direction, instead of that tipping point that everybody's worried about, that we'll reach that point where we can't fix the climate because we've gone past the point of no return, that it's just a runaway system. No, it doesn't have to be that way. It takes all of those listening, plus all of those you can connect with. It takes people who care. But it starts with knowing. That's why I'm optimistic, because little kids care about sharks.
That's right.
You got people who are asking questions that they wouldn't dream of asking when I was a child, because everybody thought, no problem. The air will always be okay. Water will always naturally fall out of the sky. We have summer, winter, you know, spring and fall, not in that order necessarily, but that we have a world that we can count on that works in our favor. But it's only if we behave ourselves.
That's right.
And now we know. We've got the evidence, and that's why I'm an optimist. People can look and see for themselves that it matters what we do. It matters what we fail to do.
Every day.
Every day.
Every single day.
The one thing times 8 billion.
Exactly. The small positive things truly do add up, you know, so.
Really love what you're doing, Shannon the Shark. You are such a good voice for the critters, for the ocean, and a champion for hope spots around the world, champion for people.
So we are out of time for today, but thank you, Shannon, for joining us, and thank you everyone else for joining in. I hope you'll come back next time.
Had a whale shark of a good time.
Whale shark of a good time. So we have these conversations with our ocean community roughly every 2 weeks, but during Sharktober, we'll be here every Thursday with our little sharky friends. And you
Where's
can. Oh, you want this guy again?
Yeah.
All right. Sharktober. Be there.
And real quick, I'm going to be taking over Mission Blue's Instagram when I'm down in our Hope spot here. So stay tuned for that, and hopefully I'll see some cool stuff and get to share some exciting things with you. I know there's some turtles supposed to be hatching right when I get down there, and lots of other cool stuff going on. So
well, excellent. Send us some pictures of those whale sharks that you see.
I absolutely will.
Yeah, and you can find information about all these upcoming events in your email box and on the Mission Blue and the Ocean Elders channels. And this episode and past episodes are available on YouTube. And thank you so much to the Ocean Elders and Medley Media for making this series possible. Yeah. And remember, take care of the ocean as if your life depends on it.
Because it does.
Thank you, everyone.